Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we're going to be talking about my wish list for the new Minibox, and I suppose boxes going forward, but we do have a new Minibox coming out relatively soon, so I just kind of wanted to talk about, rather than predicting what's going to be in it, what I would like to see in it. And to talk about that, first we have to talk about the state that the game is in right now. I think it's pretty undeniable that Multi-Strike Dragon Dragias is the strongest card in the game. It is extremely strong, extremely oppressive, extremely aggressive. You can use it to clear your opponent's board, get your opponent's life points. It has the most attack in the game outside of Blue Eyes White Dragon. So it's a bit of a problem. And this was true in the physical release as well. This card also dominated for the longest time and still does see play to this day. So a lot of the changes I would like to see are ways to address this card specifically. And I think a really funny card to be able to deal with it would be Buster Blader. Now, I don't think Buster Blader is going to come to the game because 2600 attack base is pretty good for this stage of the game. I just think it'd be really funny to specifically have anti-Dragias cards and specifically anti-Dragon cards, and Buster Blader would be the funniest of those cards. I think more realistic ways to deal with Dragias is battle traps, and specifically battle traps that can weaken Dragias' attack so that it crashes into other monsters, so it's not just this overwhelming force that ends games on its own. In terms of generic battle traps, I don't think we will see this, but I would really like to see the barrier. This is because a lot of the other battle traps in the game are specific to different types. By putting the barrier in the game, you would be able to say that all decks do now have a way that can deal with it without having to specifically release a battle trap for every single deck. The barrier just reducing attack by 400 is pretty good. It's generic, you can use it in anything. What's not to love? But then there are the deck-specific battle traps. So for spellcasters, that would be Curtain of Sparks, which does reduce the attack of an attacking monster by 500. This now means that Dragias will die if it tries to attack into a 7th Rogue Magician, which is pretty cool. That now means 7th Rogue Magician is a little bit stronger. On top of that, Curtain of Sparks does have a support monster in Sparkheart Girl. So this would be a new fire spellcaster for the spellcaster deck. You can send a level 4 or lower monster from your hand to the graveyard. One face-up monster opponent's field loses 500 attack to the end of the turn. This again is pretty good because reducing Dragias down to 2000 attack means you'll be able to attack over a lot easier. But then we can set a Sparks and or a Curtain of Sparks from your graveyard to your spell and trap card zone. So being able to recycle Curtain of Sparks is a pretty cool effect. Now, I think it would be really cool to see these cards come out together, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for, but we'll have to wait and see what actually ends up happening. So next up, for our Dragon players, we do have Dragon's Fortitude. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack, the attacking monster loses attack equal to the level of one Dragon monster from your graveyard times 100 to the end of this turn. So this could be 7 if we got our Dragias in the graveyard and we've got any of our other high-level dragons, which means losing 700 attack is pretty good. But this could be as low as like 400 if we've just got like Dragorite in the graveyard. Then we can shuffle that monster from graveyard into the deck. So the only reason I think this card might not come out is I don't think people really want to be dealing with 6 Dragias, because effectively you could be running 3 Dragias in the main deck and then shuffle the same one or all 3 back into the deck 3 times by using 3 Dragon's Fortitude, which might get a little bit annoying. But this trap card does come with a support monster, again in Fortitude Dragon. 900 attack, 1100 defense, Dark Dragon, level 4. Then the top card of your deck to the graveyard. One face-up monster with 2000 or more attack on your opponent's field loses 400 attack to the end of the turn. Then you can set Dragon's Fortitude from your graveyard to your spell trap zone. Again, it's very similar to Sparkheart Girl, but I think the main reason I don't think we'll see this is because you have the ability to recycle Dragias, which I think most people just don't want to deal with. So an alternative for dragons could be Vengeful Dragon's Counterattack, which is when a dragon-type monster on your field is destroyed by an opponent's attack, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy one monster in your opponent's field. So this is a bit bittersweet, right? Because it does get to pop any monster, which is very, very good. But we do have to send a card from our hand to the graveyard, which can be kind of bad, because ideally you want to be emptying your hand every turn. So I think this card would be fine, but we'll have to wait and see. The main draw of this card, obviously, is it doesn't let you reuse your Dragias, so that's something. Next up, for the Winged Beast, because we don't want to forget about our Lightning Bolt Condor players, Counter Pigeons would be a really cool trap. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your attack position Winged Beast type monster, the attacking monster loses attack equal to the level of the attacking monster times 100 until the end of the turn. So that is pretty cool. That means if a Dragias attacks, it will lose 700 attack because it is a level 7 monster. So this card I think would be really, really cool because the Winged Beast deck is struggling quite a lot at the moment. And Counterheart, although is a bit more heavy-handed because it is 700 attack the monster's losing, it does suit it because the Winged Beast monsters also have quite low attack. If we think Lightning Bolt Condor only has 2200 and Darkness Crested Hawk only has 2100. So another really good trap card for Winged Beast to try and kind of bump their power level up a bit could be something like Bruku Hearted Pigeon. When your opponent normal or special summons a level 5 or higher monster face up, while you have a face up Winged Beast type monster on your field, change one attack position monster on your opponent's field to face up defense position. Then if you change the monster to face up defense position by this effect, inflict 500 damage. That 500 damage is nice, but primarily this is here to change one of your opponent's monsters to defense mode. Now this card is very, very good and has been seeing play recently in the Harpy Lady deck, which is kind of the Winged Beast deck of choice in Rush at the moment. But this card, although might be a little bit strong for now, I think is the kind of boost that the Winged Beast deck needs to try and become a bit more competitive. They do need stronger spell traps and more support to actually break free of the bottom of tier 3. Next up for the Aqua monsters, we have all for naught Bubble Burst. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your face-up level 8 or higher Aqua type monster, so this restriction is a little bit tight because effectively this will now only work with our Diankito, so it's a little bit more restrictive, whereas the other ones kind of will work with anything. The attacking monster loses 600 attack to the end of the turn. Then if your opponent has a face-up spellcaster type monster on the field, one face-up monster on your opponent's field loses 1 million attack until the end of the turn. Now, obviously this is a pretty big blowout against Seven's Red Magician specifically, but outside of that, this is still just a really good card, right? This outs even a Blue Eyes White Dragon, which does make it pretty good, and I think the restriction is quite fair on this card that you can't just use it to beat over your opponent with like Kanan, you basically have to use this with Diankito. Another trap I would love to see come out for Aqua is Party Time Disco Ball. When an opponent normal summons a level 5 or higher monster, special summon one Aqua type monster from your graveyard to your field. So this is a really good way to just keep recycling Diankito. And I think Diankito is one of the... I mean, it can be a bit annoying when your opponent keeps summoning a 2500 attack monster that can gain you life points, but it is not one of the cards that is going to just blow you out and end the game, so I don't mind having recursion for that card specifically. So I think Disco Ball would be a great inclusion. Next up for the warrior players out there, Ruler's Deadly Duel. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack on your face-up warrior type monster, the attacking monster loses 400 attack until the end of the turn. Then if you have a face-up level 8 or higher warrior type monster on your field, you can destroy a spell trap on your opponent's field. So being able to put your opponent's spell trap is a pretty nice bonus, because you can use this to deal with your opponent's battle traps as well. Especially because Yami Ruler has been seeing a bit of a downturn. As the meta has developed, we've seen that Yami Ruler has become less and less prevalent and less good, so I think them getting a way to have a battle trap that also acts as a spell trap removal could be a good way to give them that boost that they seem to need. So next up is a bit of a weird one. So Beast Gear Secret Art Primal Fist. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your face-up level 7 to 9 Beast Warrior Fiend or Machine. So the reason I like this card is because ideally we'll be getting Beast Warriors soon. I mean, ideally in this mini box, but if not, the next box after that, which means this is already a good combat trap for the Beast Gear deck. It also works with Fiends, which does mean this will work with Roa and his Royal Rebels. And it works with machine type monsters, which means when we do eventually start getting probably some of our Earth machines is what we expect to see first, things like Printing Presser, we will see this useful in that as well. But we can change the attacking monster to face-up defense position, then if you change Dragon Spellcaster or Fairy type monster to defense position by this effect, you can destroy a spell or trap card. Again, it's a similar effect to the last one, and this does specifically punish Dragon and Spellcaster players, so Dragon Casters or SAR or Dragonic Resonance, and it also does mess with Fairy type players, which there aren't any at the moment, and even when Fairies do come out, they're not going to be particularly strong, so just sucks if you're a Fairy player, I guess. But this card is very versatile because it does support 3 types. Next up, for my wish list, I would really like to see the Beast Gear archetype show up. I love Beast Gears. Beast Gears are really fun, as well as aesthetically, I think they're really cool. And they do have a field spell card that, again, does hurt Dragias. And again, my main goal from this mini box is to hurt Dragias. The cards we could see would be Catapult Kong, which is fine. With the field spell out, it becomes 2500. It does suck, it needs the field spell to get to that point. But again, if you're against dragons or spellcasters or dragon casters, you should now be the biggest thing on the board. King Convoy Lyogan, again, not the strongest monster, but it's fine. We do just need big guys that get bigger under Beast Gear World, so he's going to make the cut. Savage Claw Tiger, is actually a pretty decent card. A card that can boost its attack is always going to be really useful. Think of this as like a baby 7th Road Magician that does become pretty big under Beast Gear World. Then, obviously, the field spell itself, Beast Gear World, really, really good. Boosts even your low-level monsters, which means if we do get a lot of the other vanilla monsters, such as Moto Wolf, we can get that 1400 up to 1700, and a 1700 normal summon is really good. That will start showing those aggro players who's boss. I'd also like to see Beast Summoner, because this is a really good card for being able to summon out Catapult Kong and Savage Claw Tiger, but also it can summon out Winged Beasts, which means this would be another really strong boost to the Volt Condor deck, which I would really like to see. And then just the other vanillas. We need our vanilla Beast Warrior monsters to kind of facilitate the strategy. Next up, the Winged Beasts. I know we've already spoken about Winged Beasts a little bit, but being able to get more Winged Beast boss monsters will give the deck extra legs to stand on. I think one monster that would be pretty cool to have is Karchizark the Unequaled. So 2100 attack, level 7 Fire Winged Beast. This is technically a Gakuto card, but again, the reason I like this card is because you can use it with Gakuto, but also use it with the Winged Beast Volt Condor deck, so multi-purpose. But we can send a level 7 or higher monster from our hand to the graveyard, it gains 1000 attack. Now again, that's fine, because going up to 31 is fine. Having to give up a card from your hand and have a specific requirement of level 7 or higher does kind of suck. But then if we sent a warrior or winged beast type monster to the graveyard by this effect, we can add a level 6 or lower normal monster from our graveyard to our hand. So it does replace the card we got rid of, and ideally it will just be a level 4 or lower that we can just normal summon and use as tribute fodder. The other new Winged Beast boss monster I'd quite like to see is Night Vision the Phantom Pigeon. So another Winged Beast, 2200 attack, level 7 dark monster. If we have a trap card in our graveyard, send the top card of our deck to the graveyard. This card gains attack equal to the number of trap cards in your graveyard times 200 to the end of the turn. Then if you have 5 more trap cards in your graveyard, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Now the burn effect from this might get kind of annoying, and a lot of the kind of Night Vision Pigeon deck does have a lot of mini burn effects that might get a little bit frustrating, but again, Volt Condor is in Struggle Street, so it does need something. Now, I don't know if you would play Night Vision in the Volt Condor deck. It probably wouldn't fit in there, but it is a nice option just to give Winged Beast something extra to do. Next up, Thousand Knives. This is a card that I think will actually skyrocket Dark Magician, potentially definitely into tier 2, possibly into tier 1, because with the skill Magician Shuffle, we can easily get access to our Dark Magician, which means Thousand Knives should be live a lot more of the time. Now, this doesn't suddenly break it. We effectively have 4 copies of Dark Magician in our deck in terms of being able to find it, but once it does go to the graveyard, it's not super easy to get it out of the graveyard, and once Dark Magician is in the graveyard, then our Thousand Knives become dead. But I think it would be cool to give it a little bit of a boost, just so that it has something over other decks. Next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about Legend cards. So there are a lot of Legend monster spell and traps. I don't think we necessarily need any more Legend monsters, except maybe Buster Blader, because that'd be really funny. But the first wave of Legend spells that we did originally get in the physical Rush game were Card Destruction, Shield and Sword, Tribute to the Doom, Smashing Ground. These cards are all quite low power level. Obviously, right now, any good spell trap is going to be fantastic, right? Card Destruction probably is the weakest of them all. It doesn't really do anything. It minuses you. It's a bit rough, right? But Shield and Sword, Tribute to the Doomed are probably a little bit more usable. They're probably a little bit more strong. Tribute to the Doomed can get rid of face-down monsters, so maybe that might be a little bit too good, but having the discard attached to it also does balance out a little bit. I think we're more likely to see Shield and Sword come to the game early. When it comes to trap cards, though, that's where things get a little bit funky. So Trap Hole was the first Legend trap introduced to the game, and I think this would be fine to introduce. I don't think it would be super overbearing. Obviously, it becomes a mandatory include in every single deck, but that's Legends, right? No matter what, as soon as there is a good Legend, it's mandatory. I mean, just look at Summon Skull. Any deck that can play Summon Skull is basically playing Summon Skull. But the other two kind of lower powered options would be Widespread Ruin and Sakuretsu Armor. Now, both of these cards have different strengths and weaknesses. Sakuretsu Armor is a bit more powerful in the sense that you can choose what you use it on. Widespread Ruin is a little bit more powerful in the sense that if your opponent isn't attacking with the highest attack monster to try and play around Sakuretsu Armor, you can use something like Widespread Ruin to pop it anyway. So these cards do have different uses. I think personally I prefer Sakuretsu Armor, and it will get more support later on in the future in the form of Sakuretsu Force. But overall, I think Trap Hole would probably make the most sense to come to the game, but we'll have to wait and see if any of these do actually come. So again, my prediction slash wish list would be that I would really like to see Shield and Sword and Trap Hole come out. Again, I don't think they're both going to come out together. I think what's more likely is we're going to see just like card destruction, and that might not even be in this mini box, that might be in the box after, like a main set box. But we will eventually have to get some more of these legend cards, and I think these would be the good ones to start with. So in terms of stuff I don't want to see, I think there's only really... I mean, obviously we can't have anything that's too powerful this early, but I think one thing I've seen a lot of people asking for is type-specific spell trap hate. Now, spellcasters and dragons, for example, have cards that just say, if you have a spellcaster monster, destroy spell trap, or if you have a dragon monster, destroy spell trap. Now, the reason I don't like these cards and I wouldn't want them brought in immediately is because not every single type gets one of these. And some of them are a bit funky, like they're put it to the top of the deck, put it to the bottom of the deck, return it to the hand. So they're not all created equally, and I think this will give some of these stronger decks a little bit of a leg up over the others. So I would actually kind of like to see Hammer Crush get pushed a little bit more instead of seeing these type-specific ones get put in, which was another reason why I was talking about the barrier. Because again, the barrier is in a world where everything is created equal, because we don't have to specifically go each and every deck and out to everything, right? But these are just my thoughts, what I would like to see. Feel free to leave a comment on the video telling me how wrong I am, how all of these cards would ruin the game, how it would be catastrophic if they all come out, and tell me what you would like to see in the upcoming mini box. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.